Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Hello, you're welcome to today's edition of Money Radio, a program that brings to you the latest developments in Nigeria's business and economy cycles and issues of business around the world. My name is Innocent Odo, and together we shall look at the transportation sector with a focus on the rail system, the groundbreaking of the Kano-Kaduna rail corridor, and the socio-economic impact of this project on Nigeria's development. The Kano-Kaduna rail is set for groundbreaking today at Dawakin Kudu LGA in Kano State. The project is about $1.2 billion, and it links Kano to Kaduna. That also will link to the Abuja-Kaduna rail already in use. The loan is not ready yet, but the federal government is financing it through the budget. And I have a guest to do justice to this very important topic. Kes Hammond is a public affairs analyst and a specialist in the transport sector. Kes, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Now, before we go into the main topic of the day, let's take some news tidbits. In the news, the Central Bank of Nigeria's governor, Godwin Emefiele, said that a 15 trillion naira infrastructure company limited, Infraco, created by the federal government to bridge the nation's huge infrastructure gap, is to take off in the third quarter of the year. Emefiele spoke at an investors webinar designed to showcase the investment opportunities in Nigeria's privatization and economic reforms programs organized by the Bureau of Public Enterprise in collaboration with Nigerian Investment Promotion Council, NIPC, and the Nigerian Exchange Group, NJX. Vice President Yemi Osibanjo also said at the event that although the government's economic reforms had paid off in telecommunications, pension, and maritime sectors, the current administration was making effort to address the challenges in the power sector privatization. And the Supreme Court on Wednesday restrained the federal government and its agencies from ceding 17 disputed oil wells located at Akri and Mbende to Imo State. The action of the Apex Court was pursuant to a request by Rivers State, which is also laying claims to the ownership of the two communities the oil wells are located. The Rivers State government had dragged the Attorney General of the Federation and the Attorney General of Imo State before the Supreme Court, praying for the declaration that the boundary between Rivers and Imo State, as delineated on the Nigerian administrative map 10 and 11 and 12 editions, and other maps bearing similar delineations, are inaccurate, incorrect, and do not represent the legitimate and lawful boundaries between Rivers and Imo State. However, pending the hearing of the substantive suit, Rivers State, through its Attorney General, had in application prayed the court for an order of injunction restraining the federal government from surrendering the affected oil wells to Imo State, a request which was accordingly granted. The Director General of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA, Bashir Jamo, said the assets deployed under the Deep Blue project recently launched by President Muhammadu Buhari are manned by proficient officers from the Nigerian Security Services. Jamo stated this in Lagos during the graduation ceremony of officers trained to crew the special mission vessels, the main maritime component of the project, also called the Integrated National Security and Waterways Project Protection Infrastructure. Jamo, who was represented by the agency's Executive Director, Operations, Shehu Ahmed, said the graduation of 30 officers trained in various parts of the globe marked a significant addition to the team of competent personnel manning assets under the Maritime Security Scheme. And the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, on Wednesday launched an app known as Eagle Eye, designed to ease the process of reporting economic and financial crimes in Nigeria. Speaking during the launch, the executive chairman of the commission, Abdul Rashid Bawa, described the app being the first of its kind by any law enforcement agency in Nigeria as a product of ingenuity by the staff of the commission, being an application that was conceived, designed, and developed by the EFCC. According to the EFCC chairman, the initiative is a clear demonstration of his pledge on assumption of office to run an agency that is technology-driven. The Eagle Eye represents a new experience in the information sharing and crime reporting between the public and the EFCC. And on the foreign scene, the European Union on Monday extended economic sanctions on Russia for its role in the conflict in eastern Ukraine for another 6 months rather. The sanctions were first adopted in July 2014 in response to Russia's annexation of Ukraine's Crimea Peninsula and its support for pro-Moscow separatists in the country's east. The restrictive measures have been extended regularly. That's it for the news. We come back to the main topic of the day, which is the rail system in Nigeria and a special focus on the groundbreaking ceremony for the Kano-Kaduna rail corridor. Kes, we have in recent times seen federal government commission rail projects in the country, and we have seen the Abuja Kaduna rail commissioned and is in operation. We've also seen the Lagos Ibadan rail project, also commissioned by the president in June 2001. And now, of course, before then, we've had the Itakpe Warri rail project, which has also been commissioned by the federal government. Now we are having a groundbreaking of the Kano-Kaduna rail corridor, another project that is expected, of course, to add value to the rail system and, of course, to the generally to the economy of the country. With this connectivity, what do you see in terms of the socio-economic essence of the rail connectivity in the country?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that I give it to this government when it comes to the issue of building or improving rail transportation. Yes. Government is a continuum. Previous governments have started these projects, but this government did not relent. They are continuing. And it's good for the economy. Kano and Kaduna are the biggest cities and the most economically viable cities in the north. Yes, those are the economic life wires of the north. That is clear. And so when you have a rail linking Kano and Kaduna and Abuja, Kaduna, and then another one linking Warri to Itakpe, you see that the country is actually getting interlinked, by rail. That is good. I say so because the roads are bad. Take, for example, this road between Niger and Kwara.
Yes.
That is the Bida Jeba, you know that road?
Yes, of course.
That road is an eyesore. And that is where much of the goods that come from the south to the north pass. And you see that there's a clock there. When you have goods that are stranded, goods that are not moving as they should be, it creates an economic clock in the system, and that has a general impact on the growth of the economy. So building rails is not a bad thing. It's a very good thing, and I applaud this government for that.
Okay, talking about the interconnectivity now, the Kano-Kaduna rail corridor is supposed to link that of Kaduna-Abuja rail in order to have a cycle of business around it. So one may begin to think, what kind of businesses would you think would thrive along these corridors?
Much of the food that we consume produced in the north, much of the food. There are some states in the north that are called food basket, or North, Middle Belt. There are states called food baskets. So when you see a part of what we are suffering today, inflation, is as a result of food or goods not being transported as and when they are supposed to. Yes. And when you have that, it contributes to economic clog. And that is why we are having, it's contributing to inflation as we have it today. So when we have like rail lines that are running day and night, we have food moving up and down, we have goods. The leather industry, for example, recently a leather commission was, a leather
the leather technology.
Yes, it was commissioned.
A boost to the leather technology.
Yes,
by the federal government.
Exactly. You see that leather, much of the leather comes from the north, and is used in Aba.
Yes.
Yes. So, a viable rail link, a viable transportation system that makes these goods moving as and when they should move. It makes it easier for the economy. The economy grows. The economy, transportation is the oil of the economy. Without transportation,
the nerve of the economy.
The nerve of the economy. Without transportation, you can produce whatever you want to, but you may be the only one to consume it, and you can't consume all you produce. It has to move from the producer to the consumer, and that is what transportation does. So I applaud this government when it comes to the issue of rail.
Okay, there's one other thing that is very instructive in this whole development of rail infrastructure in the country. The federal government seems to have carried a lot of weight at the same time, the revamping of the system at the same time, in quick succession. You can see after the commissioning, you have the Abuja Kaduna rail. You now have the Ibadan Lagos axis also being commissioned. Then you have the groundbreaking. So you can see that there's a wave of investment in the rail system. One will begin to think that, what about the funding system? The federal government definitely, in this period that we do not have, we have deficit of revenue, funding this project has largely been as a result of loans obtained from the Chinese Exim Bank and from other sources. If you take, for instance, the Abuja Kaduna rail line, that in terms of resources, it got about $874 million, and the Chinese Exim Bank actually invested like 500 million. That's about 85% of the project, and the Nigerian government took about 50% counterpart funding. So, but it happens to be on concessionary loans, which of course Nigeria will have to also pay back. And we do not know the time frame. Maybe the clauses of that contract between Nigeria and the NC Bank has not been made public. If it has been made, I do not know. Maybe I stand to be corrected. So carrying this kind of weight and taking much of the doing much of the project with loans, does it not have consequences?
It does. The federal government, well, when it comes to the issue of loan to GDP, we're not in a bad position, but the federal government doesn't generate much revenue to either pay back those loans or, what's the word? To keep paying interest for those loans. So the sensible thing to do, which the Lagos State government started when I remember a recent governor started when they embarked on an ambitious infrastructure project, was this public-private partnership arrangement. Yes, it can be extended to the rail sector. And that is, as these loans are coming in from the governments, take for example, the Chinese government and other multilateral or bilateral arrangements.
Yes.
People who use those lines, the rail lines, can be taxed. You can add a little on each ticket. People will be happy to pay. Once they see that those services are being rendered, they will pay. And by that means, the government can even go and get more loan, and from the loans, improve or build new rails. Because rail is the thing. Take, for example, the Apapa situation. I call it the Apapa situation because it's a perennial
problem.
Yes, the problem is perennial. Goods are stuck at that port. People who want to go to work are stuck in that traffic. People who even run their real estate businesses are, in fact, people are leaving Apapa because of the traffic situation there. What if you had a rail line linking Apapa with Ibadan or a nearby state that is less congested? It will decongest that Apapa area, and so much will be accomplished economically, because once that decongestion takes place, you see that people will be able to move freely, and moving freely connotes economic activities. And once that is done, you see that the economy begins to move. But without rail, then you have all of those trucks, all of those cars on that road, day and night, stuck in one place. You can imagine being in one position for 10, 12 hours. And this thing has been going on for decades. When you have a rail system that decongests that kind of system, you will see that things will move
and become more effective.
Yes, the economy will become oiled.
Okay.
That is lubrication.
Of course. So what you are invariably saying is that rail system is the economic nerve of the nation,
Exactly.
and every possible way should be, every possible thing should be, investment should be made to improve the rail system.
Funny enough,
listeners, on that note, we take a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue the discussion.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money. Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Listener, we are back. I'm sitting in the studio with Kes Hammond, and we're talking about the importance of the connectivity of the rail system in Nigeria. With the latest, of course, being the groundbreaking of the Kano-Kaduna rail corridor, which will be performed, by the federal government today. So what we are saying is that before we went on that short break, Hammond, the funding is very important. Loans are okay if they are generated, and we have also a mechanism through which you can build income and capacity to be able to pay those loans back. But the problem, however, is that Nigerians are a little bit skeptical about the amount of money involved in these projects, and when and how Nigeria might develop the capacity to pay back. I just mentioned the issue of the case of the Kaduna Abuja rail, which got $874 million. Then you can see the Ibadan Lagos rail corridor got about $1.5 billion. The Kano-Kaduna rail project that is being, is to take effect now, will go up about $1.2 billion. So you can see this is, and I don't think they have secured any loan for this particular project we are talking about. The federal government seems to be poised to fund this Kano-Kaduna rail project with the budget. So now that we have, like you say, we have deficits in income generation, we rely on loan. For a country that does not have the product or have not demonstrated productive capacity over the years, we're still very skeptical about the huge amount involved in this, and whether the creditors will be patient enough to allow Nigeria be once it is time to pay back those loans and Nigeria is not able to pay back. What then happens to those projects?
Well, the projects See, the rail is the way to go. Like I was just saying, the government can embark on a public-private partnership arrangement. We know that oil, which the government has been depending on for decades now, is no longer a reliable source of income. To develop, you must borrow. Otherwise, infrastructure will continue to decay and the economy will continue to shrink. So the way to go is to borrow. How that money is paid back? Public-private partnership is the way to go. You see, interestingly, whereas other countries had invested in rail transportation over the decades, Nigeria actually relaxed. Take, for example, in 1964, passenger traffic on Nigerian rails fell. It was around 11 million. By 2003, it had fallen to just 1.6 million. There's passenger transportation on the rails. What about freight? Freight traffic almost collapsed by falling from 3 million in 1964 to just 100,000 tons. So you can see that very little has been, very little of the rail system has been put to use because the thing had actually gone down to the drain. So I know that the Obasanjo government started this rail investment. The Jonathan government continued,
yes.
And good thing the Buhari government is continuing, and it's like the Buhari government has come with renewed vigor. Yes, and I said that is good for the economy because if you look at the roads, government is investing in building roads and repairs, but those same roads are destroyed or not, they are damaged.
Yes.
They get ruined in little or no time. Just after 1 or 2 rainy seasons, you see that the roads go bad because of the weight on the roads, especially the north-south roads, the weight. So if you had a rail system that would cut all of that long transportation, and you see maybe from Lagos, you bring your goods straight to Abuja, to Kano, to Kaduna, you are linking the north and the south. From the east, Warri to Itakpe, and then to Abuja, Kaduna, Kano. You are linking the country. And with that, you relieve the roads of the weight. So government spends less on maintaining those roads, which saves money. So the rail transportation is still the way to go.
It is the way to go, no doubt about that. The thing is, when you enter into a contract, in terms of getting loans from an international organization or a country, and then I don't know whether it is wrong for Nigerians to understand the clauses, written. My question actually is that if Nigeria, with these huge sums that have been invested in it, mostly from borrowed funds, if we do not know whether the concessionary laws of how many years, some say it is a period of 20, in some cases they say 10, depending on the project, specific project. So if you tie this these loans that were collected, to the time frame within which Nigeria is expected to pay back those loans, and in those years, Nigeria is not able to pay back. The question is, what happens to the loans? And do we have the clauses that spelled out for the public? As they entered into the contract with those countries or the creditor nations, Nigerians perhaps do not understand the terms of these loans and the clauses therein. So if Nigeria defaults, for instance, what then happens to the projects?
What happens is, if those projects are complete and Nigeria defaults, similar thing has happened in one of those Eastern African countries. For example, I heard that the Kenyan port
Yes.
has been taken over by the Chinese. Well, until they get their money back, they will continue to operate and get their.
But that poses another danger, because a rail system is not just about economy; it's also about national security.
Yes.
Now, if a country, was willing to deliver such projects for you on those concessionary loans, and you're also willing to accept the loans, probably not having the capacity to meet to the demands of the loans when it's time to pay up, and the countries or the creditor nations take over those loans, what does that portend to Nigeria's image, integrity, and security?
Well, it's bad, but the best thing the policy makers can do is to ensure that they have good policies.
Yes.
And so, like I said, government doesn't have money again. So the way to go is public-private partnerships, and that is tax users. Once the project is complete, tax users of these of the infrastructure, the rail. Once people realize that they can use the rail system with ease and their security, they will use it. If you tax them using as you issue tickets, you add a little as taxation on those tickets, they will be willing to buy. And by that, the government does not really need to lose its sovereignty, so to speak, to whichever nation, be it China, that is investing much into the country's rail system or its infrastructure. So the way to go is public-private partnerships. If the government, if policymakers really carry out the right policies, I don't think Nigeria will get to that level where it will have to lose its sovereignty to the likes of China.
Okay, there's another thing that also worries people in Nigeria, which is the federal government suddenly canceled the contract for the Maiduguri Port Harcourt rail line, claiming that they're going to re-award the contract. So we do not understand why. A lot of people are beginning to read meanings into it, that perhaps the rail system that connects the eastern part of the country has been cancelled. Even though the government promised to re-award it. What does it tell about the entire thing? If you're connecting rail to the other parts of the country, why would you cancel the contract of that particular one that connects the eastern part of the country to the northern part? Of course. You can say that in just 3 minutes because our time is fleeting.
Yeah. People read meanings into things. And while they may have their reasons for reading meanings into those developments, they may not necessarily be so. Since the federal government decided that they are going to re-award the contracts, they must have given reasons. And those reasons, if those reasons are cogent, let them re-award the contracts. And maybe the contract was very expensive to carry out. If it was, there's need to re-award it. But I think, the eastern part of the country is one of the most economically viable parts of the country. So building infrastructure in other parts of the country and leaving the east out, it's like shooting its own leg. I'm talking about the federal government. It's like shooting its own legs.
Oh, yes. Let's hope that the federal government will actually re-award the contract, make it more effective as they have promised, so that we'll have a total connectivity of the rail system to all parts of the country, which many Nigerians believe is a very important investment in the life of the nation, especially at this time that the country is suffering from a serious economic downturn. The rail system is, according to experts, is geared towards revamping the country's economy, building infrastructure, adding value to the economy, and of course, creating the required jobs for the teeming population of Nigerians. In the last couple of years, Nigeria population has grown by 3.4% per annum. And unfortunately, the economy hasn't grown that much. But with the rail system, it is expected that will add boost to the economy and then help the country out of the quagmire that it's in. So, listener, this is the time to call it a day. We are going to draw the curtains on this edition of Money Radio. I'm being joined by Case Hammond to do justice to this very important topic. And on behalf of my producer, Bayo Amodu, I'll say goodbye. We promise the next edition will be much better. Thank you and remain blessed.
Thanks.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.